This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yes!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host back east, handling all the producing duties. It's going to be Danny, and he's back, folks, the White Shadow, the award-winning journalist, John Morgan. What's up?
What's going on, man?
How you doing?
It has been far too damn long, dude. I miss coming in here, man. It's nice. A rare week where we don't have a UFC event. It's not really that much going on.
Yeah.
That ain't me.
What's that about?
Wow.
Danny and John have like a serious beef. Danny's mad because in New York he went up to John and John had no idea who he was.
Oh, he put his arm on you?
Yeah, it was pretty funny, man. I was just like, hey, what's up, bro?
But that goes more for like if John had told a joke, then he's doing the crickets. He's just actually, we're just bullshitting.
I think that's
here.
what's going on in Danny's head.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't really understand that, Danny. Man, I log in, and it's funny because there's days where the first thing I do is check Junkie, and today, I'll be honest, I didn't even check it till now, so I'm just kind of scrolling through just see what's popping. I love it when the editorial digs into some of the interviews, you know, not just like MMA talk. But right now we have Randy Couture with a street fight story. One of the guys, they just wrote MMA Junkie staff. I don't know who did it, but they dug up that story that Randy Couture told. And you know what I was thinking? That's when he was at the wrestling in Mobile, Alabama, or somewhere in the South. Remember, the guy had a bat?
Oh, yeah. Okay,
that one. So it's a real good one, folks. Hit it if you get a chance. It's a real good one. Him, Dan Henderson was there, and I forget who the other party was involved. But I was thinking, you know what would be a good story? I think. You tell me. I still can't stop laughing at Max Holloway and his 15 churros.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is that worthy, or would Dan just go, get the fuck out of here?
It's a little bit of both sometimes.
Really?
You know what I mean? It's, you know what it is finding the right way to get it to fit in and it just being the right timing and kind of being in the right mood as a writer, too, because, you know, he says so many other things. And,
right.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of tough.
So Max Holloway, if you haven't heard, he was here a few weeks ago. He had 15 churros at Disneyland.
And a churro cake.
Yeah.
Because 15 churros weren't enough.
Apparently not. And this is, you know, a young man that weighs 145 for a couple hours before he goes out to battle at around 160, 162, who knows.
Look at this
15 churros, man.
It's about the size of a churro, okay? Stack 15 of these and then put them up against your belly.
He was at Disneyland. We said, let's just pretend you got early access, 8 a.m. And let's just say it was open till midnight. Literally, it's still one churro per hour. Didn't we break it down? It was even a little bit more. One of the hours you had to double up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it is work.
That's putting in work right there.
Yeah, because part of the time you're on a ride. I don't think you're eating the churro then. So, I don't know. That was amazing. And the cake.
Can you imagine if you can go back to the Disneyland system and look at, like, Splash Mountain where everybody's like this and he's
got one hanging out like a
cigar.
He's got
a churro in his mouth.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I was going to pitch it to the editorial and go, I still can't stop laughing at it. It is a slow week. People might get a kick out of it. Why? Because if you go on to other sites, I think other sites are kind of like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, you know? I mean, it's not all X's and O's everywhere else. I don't know if just the media's changing, journalism's changing, but
it's just a slow week, bro.
It is a slow week.
It's a slow week.
I don't think we would do it for someone that fought on Fight Pass, but Max Holloway's turned into a character. You know, everybody talks about Cody Garbrandt becoming a superstar on Saturday night. I think he became a star, not a superstar. A superstar is that pay-per-view draw. A star is just like, I know him. I want to see him fight. I'll pay money for him. He did put on a show. But I believe Max Holloway's also done that throughout 2016.
I agree, and I think it's been great to see because behind the scenes, I think those of us that had known Max had known that personality's there, but he's always kind of kept it off, and he talked about it a little bit. I think that was at his manager's behest, to kind of chill out a little bit. But he's always had that little attitude. Yeah, his grandma being mad is funny. He's always had that behind the scenes. You know what I mean? You get him off to the side. You don't have the camera on. You don't have the tape recorder on. And all of a sudden he'll start talking a little trash. He lets himself get a little bit casual with his conversation. He's always had it, man. And it's really been so fun to watch him. I mean, I think I posted something on Facebook or whatever. But I just remember. I remember when that kid made his debut because they had him at the media day at the Tough Gym. And, I mean, this scrawny little kid, he was like 20 years old at the time. No, but he was on the Tough finale. And so they had the Tough finale. And they didn't have that many people. If you go back and look at the card had a lot of the tough finalists on it. So they dug down a little bit, and had him on there, and meeting the kid and literally watch him grow up in front of our eyes. But to me, it's kind of fun to see this all, appearing on screen now, and him being comfortable enough with himself to let out there, because I think the kid is a great personality, and his fighting style, of course, is fun, and it's been fun to watch the evolution of Max Holloway. And as you said, man, this year's been fun to watch the evolution of Cody Garbrandt as well. I agree, not a superstar yet, but a star-making performance for sure, man. Not only did you beat Cruz, but the style that he did it in was incredible. And he did it on a Ronda Rousey pay-per-view, which that's an even bigger platform. I mean, everybody thought that pay-per-view wasn't going to do very well.
Any numbers trickle in yet?
I haven't. It's funny because I tweeted beforehand because I was talking to some people within Zuffa, and they threw some numbers out at me that were I was like, are you serious? They're like, listen, I'm just telling you this internally.
Pay-per-view trends?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is before the fight night. And I was even told that one of the phrases being lobbied around was, there is a chance that this could compete to be our best ever. And I was like, what?
Whoa.
Exactly. I was like, what? And then so I tweeted that out because I was like, I can't believe this, but here's what I'm hearing. They're saying there's a chance this could be one of their best ever.
Right.
And all of a sudden the hate pours in. Oh, Morgan, what do you know? You're talking, man, you're such a dumbass that you fall for everything they said. And now it's coming out that the ratings were amazing. It was one of the best rated prelim shows they've ever had. This thing did well over $1 million. I think everybody's pretty clear.
$18,000 at the T-Mobile. I didn't anticipate that. When we turned the page, came back from Christmas, Goes and I looked at each other. We go, it doesn't feel like Fight Week. Like, there's not that buzz. Now, part of it's because MGM and Mandalay Bay are so close that we feel it when it's at one of the other properties. But when it's at T-Mobile, I think now people are starting to stay at Monte Carlo. They're spreading themselves out and then converging on Friday or Saturday for the fights. So as we got later in the week, we felt it a little bit. A couple fighters trickled in. Then all of a sudden they go, 40 standing tickets left, 60 standing. What the I honestly thought Dana was going to go, meet me at the Adidas. No, what is it? At the Reebok store,
George,
and I'm just going to give out tickets.
George, my mom came in town. She made kind of a last-second decision a few weeks out to come visit me after I got back from Mexico, and she was like, I might even want to go to the fight. My mom's a huge Ronda Rousey fan. I said, come on in town. There'll be tickets. Don't you worry about that. There'll be tickets. Then a couple weeks out, I started looking. I was like, well, let me see how many tickets there are left just to be careful. And it was already damn near sold out. So my mom ended up buying an upper-level seat. But I thought the same thing. For the weeks leading into this, I thought, man, this is not going to be a big event. Friday night, Ronda hasn't even been doing media. Nobody even knows where she's at anymore. And damn it, dude, I think what happens is people forget. Ronda appeals to a whole different audience than our little crew, our little bubble. You know what I'm saying? The people that are buying, my mom, her 70-year-old friends, she knew 3 different people that bought pay-per-view for the very first time in their life. You know what I'm saying? People get, so I say all that to say Cody Garbrandt did get exposed to an even broader audience.
Right.
And, I mean, guys got the look. I mean, how do you not? The tear-jerking story of Maddox along in there as well. And then on top of all that he's in there breakdancing while he beats Dominic Cruz. I mean, what?
I watched round 1 yesterday. I was going to watch the whole thing, but I watched round 1, and then I go, wow, I just want to get to Ronda again and watch. I rewatched Ronda's fight like 6 or 7 times, all the different angles, things like that. Anybody that says, by the way, they should have gone longer. One of my favorite actors,
that's crazy.
Michael Rappaport, was on Fox. He said he thought it was too quick. And so then I started going, fuck. Okay.
The exact, like, if he'd have stopped it like 1 or 2 punches before, you'd have gone, come on, man. She was getting lit up, but she was surviving. But it was that last one.
Michael Rappaport was talking about, they did something here or on TV. I forget where I saw it. There was what do they call it when they huddle up there at the table?
A table huddle?
Yeah, that they were doing that, and he was like
round
adamant.
Table?
Round table. They were adamant. Round table. They were adamant that or he was that it was too soon and white privileged or something like that. And I go, he's one of my favorite actors. He does watch the sport. He's a fan of the sport. He supports the sport. I'm gonna go back there and watch. And so I watched it from different angles. It only took me the first time to go, that's perfect.
Yeah,
she fucking got stole on. Then somebody else said, Scott Howey goes, Amanda Nunes doesn't have hand speed. All right. Now, I see what he's talking about on some of those because basically she's a 1-2 machine. She did have a couple nice hooks. In fact, she slipped one of Ronda's jabs and then came in and threw a 3-piece combo when one of the hooks landed and kind of started that onslaught. But so Amanda does have a little bit of a windup, but still, man, I mean, it's powerful. It's strong.
She had to throw from far out, though, too, because she didn't want to really get into that clinch
zone. So I was like, wow. So I'm glad I rewatched that from different angles, just seeing everybody's kind of reaction.
You know what I think I picked up most on watching it the second time was how many efforts Ronda really did make to get to the clinch.
Yeah.
I think live you didn't see it as much because I think everybody's like, what the hell didn't she try to clinch?
Yeah.
Then you go back and watch it and you're like, they weren't great attempts, and she was already rocked it, but she did make quite a few attempts to get into the clinch. It just they never got close.
She was rocked, and the other party is a killer. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So just think about if you were rocked and just some little kid came up. I mean, you're like, whoa. It takes you a while, to figure that out, whatever's happening. And obviously Amanda Nunes is not some little kid playing around. I mean, she's teeing off, and she's accurate. She knows where she's headed with her strikes. I thought that was perfect. I got tired, so I didn't go back and watch the other 4 rounds. But I just wanted to watch the first round, their walkouts. I was kind of like examining that a little bit. And I'm telling you, man, Cody started that show just early on. He matched Dominic's takedown, got one of his own, perfectly timed. It was really, really high-level mixed martial arts, both of those guys, in that first round. I still can't believe 2 judges gave it to Dominic. I thought Cody was clearly the winner of that round, but I don't know.
I mean, but that's what they need, right? You need people like Amanda, like Cody to step up because look at the stars that are leaving the sport or have at least
so that's
one
what I was
foot
gonna say.
on the way out. It's a lot of them, guys.
So that's what I was going to say. In 2017, the UFC canceled what was going to be UFC 209 in Anaheim. Why? I believe, and I think they said it's just, I don't know if they said it, but you could just tell they used so many other stars for 205.
They didn't have anybody to headline.
Right, exactly. So about a year ago, if I would have told you, they're coming to Anaheim, Cody's going to be on the card, you'd probably be like, who else,
Well,
Max Holloway's going to be on the card. You'd probably be like,
right?
okay, yeah. If I told you Nunes is going to be on the card, you'd be like, okay, maybe all 3 of them.
But right now, you'd go, ooh.
Yeah, you see how 1 year kind of develops that. Now if I were to tell you that, you're like, oh, we're off to a good start. If we can match up Edgar and Holloway and Cody versus the run back against Cruz or Dillashaw, you're into it. That's how those stars are kind of born. Now, to be superstars is when you're the pay-per-view, you're the million guy or the 500,000. I guess
that's where everybody knows.
You go from 500 to 750 to a million. You become that guy. I'm not labeling them that, but I believe they can headline those cards. Big Fox, maybe a couple of those the pay-per-views, along with some support. But that I really became even bigger fans of those 3.
John, help me understand something. This is something that I've been battling with internally when it comes to Ronda Rousey and the media blackout. Okay. You're saying she's going to do big numbers, okay? And let's just say they come back, and what's a good pay-per-view number?
A million's huge.
Okay.
Million's huge.
So let's say Zuffa, they all shake hands. Yes, we did a million. WME. Is there anybody that would say, that's great, we did a million, but if you would have just gone on ESPN and talked a little shit, maybe we could have done 2.
I think so, but, as I was told from the very beginning, this was a direct quote I was told. They tried to explain that to Ronda, and Ronda said, "Listen, I don't need money. I need to beat a bitch's ass." Was her exact quote. She said, "This is all I care about, nothing else. I don't care about money. So quit coming to me and telling me with what we can make. I don't care. I've done enough. This is all I care about." But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think so. You can say, hey, in retrospect, I know that I know that internally, when it was tried to be when it was going to be a different date and there were some different circumstances, I know that there were some people inside the company that hoped this would have been their first 2 million pay-per-view. Now, I'm not saying this, this December 30th event, but her comeback would have been the first 2 million pay-per-view event ever in UFC history. So, yeah, I think they definitely feel like they probably left some money on the table. But all in all, they've got to be thrilled, man. Friday night event, lack of media coverage. I mean, Ronda's not talking became the media coverage, right? I mean, that's what the story became. So, you could probably get away with it once. But I think overall they're going to end up being real happy with the way this thing performed.
Do you two think she'll fight again?
I don't.
I think her mind was made up before the fight that she wasn't, but I don't think she'll fight again.
No, I think that destruction had a big hand in it. I think if she won, you think she would have retired? Or
yeah.
I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, though. When I rewatched it, you could just see the energy level rise in the arena. I honestly watched the walkout maybe 4 or 5 times, just kind of watching everybody, see what their team was like, the fans' reaction. To me, it looked like someone that was happy to be back, even though she doesn't smile, happy to go in there. And I think if she would have performed well, either win or lose a classic, I still think we would have got her again. But that was pretty brutal. Now I think there's got to be concern about just like, man, I'm a smart chick. I'm a successful chick. I need to preserve this. I think she wants to be a mom, and I don't know.
What if they did come back and say, you know what, let's put her in a 145 title fight?
Like the winner against D. Randami and
yeah, or let's say it's a year from now. Let's say it's not home D. Randami. Let's say they've already had 2 or 3 fights since then. Basically anybody but Cyborg. Anybody else? Because if it's Cyborg, I don't think she wants that fight. But I mean, I don't think Holm hits as hard as Nunes does, and definitely not as hard as Cyborg does. I mean, I think she's more of a boxer. I mean, not that I don't know if Ronda would be able to shore up the gap that quick.
It all starts with when she sits down and goes, what went wrong? If it can come to light that the game planning, her skills she has to work on wrestling. She just has to. There has to be other ways to initiate her clinch other than just, trying to do a head arm or hoping to – because she needs to push her up against the cage.
That takes time.
Exactly. And there's just a lack of head movement. One time she kind of moved a little bit. I was watching it, but not enough. Not like how Amanda slipped hers and then went on the attack. Ronda's was just – it was too stiff. You know what I mean?
And the reason because I don't see – here's the thing for me is – and I'm with you. I don't think Ronda's mind was made up before. I do think that right now it's probably leaning towards not fighting again. But I just can't see Ronda coming back and being like, well, you kind of need a rebuilding fight. Let's put you up against the number 12 contender. I just don't see Ronda getting out of bed for the number 12 contender. She seems to me to be one of those people. It's like it's got to be all in. It's got to be all or nothing title fight, big time things. And so as crazy as it sounds, I mean, if she said, you know what the problem is? The problem is this cutting weight thing, man. It's too much. Like everybody else, I'm learning I don't want to cut weight. So I think 145, where I started my career, was really the best place for me to be. If they threw her back in a title fight, now there would be some people that would go 2 knockout losses and now she gets a title fight. But this is Ronda Rousey. You know what I mean? It's like Conor McGregor. You could give him any fight you want, right? I mean, you could give him a heavyweight title fight and just be like, yeah, it's Conor.
Holmes actually going off 2 losses too, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I kind of wonder if maybe that would appeal for her enough to be like, listen, if the matchup is right, depending on who happens to be champion at that point in time, if that would be enough. Because I just can't see her coming back and fighting somebody down their list and saying, well, I'll start my path back to the top.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, man. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. I know it can't happen immediately, but I honestly think it all starts with at least – her traveling to a Justin Buchholz or to a Eric Del Fierro, somebody, and just saying, can we work out a few times?
Duke Rufus.
Somebody that tells her, look,
Mike Winklejohn.
Outside of what's happening, this is what I think you should do.
Basically anybody else.
I mean, you hate to do that. That's what I mean, you hate it's. I hate to be the just jump on the because everybody's just kick Edmund, man, just kick him right now. You hate to do it, but it's like, man, in a year, what did we see different? It seems like the exact same game plan and execution and techniques, and maybe there was a whole bunch of changes and we just didn't get to see it because we didn't get to do the interviews, we didn't get to ask her about it. We don't know, but I don't know, man.
I'm starting to wonder if Kat didn't initiate, if she wasn't so aggressive, could she have been the one to maybe do some kind of a game plan similar to that? She almost did her the favor by jumping into her, and just once you're tied up with her, that's it, man. That's pretty tough. It's almost like a spider web.
I remember.
You don't want to get in there and then have to fight out of that.
I'll tell you what's funny, and I mean it's easy to say this in retrospect, but I do remember saying at the time, I don't know if I've voiced it enough or whatever. But when she knocked out Betchko, I remember thinking this might be the worst thing that ever happened to Ronda Rousey, because now she's going to fall in love with, like, oh, man, I got bombed, son. I can knock out anybody.
Then she had kneed Alexis, right? And that kind of caught her as well.
Yeah.
So
threw her. She kneed McMahon.
McMahon. Okay, what'd she do to Alexis?
She threw her.
She popped her with a jab or something, and then
when she hit her head on the mat on the throw, she went out.
Yeah, but there was a strike and a throw, right? So yeah, her confidence built up. I don't know, man. I'll tell you this much. After watching her walk in, seeing the crowd, seeing our traffic, I'd love for her to fight three more fights, even if she just goes 2-1 or whatever. Because 3-0, that's tough to really look at the camera and go, "You watch, she'll go 3-0." That's tough, man. These girls are killers out there right now.
I wonder if she does any or how much sparring she does, because it still seems like no matter what the punch is, when she gets hit with it, she just has this look like, I did not like that. And you've seen fighters get over that.
Brock Lesnar had that.
Yeah.
Question here, and then we'll go to commercial. Could she beat Juliana Pena?
Right now, I'd say no. Well, but then Juliana her game is engaging.
She wants to engage too, right? Yeah. Is Juliana striking refined enough?
I think it's a preferable matchup, much more preferable matchup for Ronda. I think it'd be a great fight. Because you're right. I mean, not that Juliana can't strike, but she's not striking on that level. Right. You know what I mean? Her game is a lot more, as you said, get into that clinch, pressure, work up against the cage, kind of stall out, get better position. And Ronda's dangerous in tight. Dangerous.
All right. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We're going to take this break. When we come back, we'll reset. We'll also take your calls, 866-522-2846. John Morgan in the house. Stay close.
Like a few friends is a breeze through. Don't you know it's 2 in the morning and our party's still jumping?
me in VX if you want.
Wait for yourself, my man. You'll never be what is in your heart. Weak little lion man, you're not as brave as you were at the start. Rate yourself and wreck yourself.
You know that scene in Star Wars where Darth Vader tells Luke he's his father? What if I walked in right after with my voice and was like, I'm your Uncle Walter. Can I get a lift home? That'd be crazy, right? Here George and goes.
SiriusXM is giving our subscribers the chance to win a trip to Houston, a.k.a. he was hanging out his...
So he's like, dude, I can't say anything. I won't say anything. So all I can tell you is I'm doing this event right now from L.A., so he'll be at the Fox lot, I guess, in L.A. for this event. So I've heard that they're going to give him a shot, run him through, give him an opportunity, kind of see if he can work into the rotation. But I don't know that for a fact. I haven't been, and nobody will confirm it. UFC won't confirm it. He won't confirm it because he's like, hey, I'm just getting let me not rock the boat just quite yet, So
Dana White was saying that his permanent play-by-play announcer won't be available until June. The summer. Either that or that's when the announcement will be made. I personally thought John would just get elevated to that. Yeah. I thought he's done an outstanding job. He's paid his dues. He does well whether he hosts his podcast, Anik and Florian, whether he hosts the Fox Desk, whether he calls the fights, puts in the work, puts in the time. And who knows, maybe it might still be Jon Anik. We don't know. We don't even know if John wants that job. I don't know. I imagine he would, but who knows?
I think he would.
But by either way, I think if he was the guy, maybe Dana would have confirmed it right then and there.
Yeah.
There's talks about Jim Rome, Max Kellerman. I forget what other name I heard. I'm sure we've heard the Chavellos and Ronaldos of the world, Jim Ross, but I really don't know which way he's going. Do you know anything?
I don't. I don't either. I've heard all the same rumors, but no confirmation whatsoever. Cold Coffee's been hearing
Gus Johnson was another name I heard.
Cold Coffee's been hearing rumblings from inside Zuffa that Mario Lopez is in the mix as one of the
But
talents.
not as a play-by-play,
not as the play-by-play
right?
guy, but just as part of the whole package.
Would he be like a third guy to complement the other two?
Man. It just seems bizarre.
Behind the scenes, or what would he do?
One of the other names, which one makes the least sense to you? Jim Rome just doesn't make sense.
Rome doesn't make sense to me
right.
either. I don't understand why.
Outstanding interviewer. But other than that, I don't see him in that role.
I don't understand. I agree, man. I don't understand why they don't just elevate Anik. I mean, the only thing I can think is they want somebody that's got, a bigger name in the space or whatever. Of course, they're trying to make waves and do whatever they can, but I really don't understand why they wouldn't just go with Anik. To me, the dude is a consummate professional, man. I think he does as good of a job as anybody in the sport, man. He's buttoned up. He's committed, man. Him and Brian Stan especially, man, to see the commitment that those dudes put in on the road, making sure they talk to every single fighter, watching tape, the fact that, the night before the event, it's like straight up, like they won't even go out to dinner with you. You know what I mean? They're like, nah, dude, I'm just gonna stay in my room and just review and go over everything, man. Like they're straight up, man.
You ever seen his 5x7s?
Oh yeah,
his little crib sheet.
Yeah.
I like the way he styles it. And
Goldie used to have a whole system too, man. I watched him do it on a plane one time. I watched the way he taped everything into these manila folders, and people just didn't go for him.
The one I don't get is buffers. It just looks like there's all kinds of shit going on. How does he read that?
I don't know. I'd like to look at him. Have you ever seen his?
Yeah, his are pretty crazy too.
Really?
Yeah, well, he sells his. You never seen? You can buy some.
Oh, he does sell them. I thought he said he held on to them. Well, about 3 years ago, last time.
He used to. Now he's starting to sell them a little bit more frequently. Maybe there's just because there's so many events or whatever, but he sells them a lot more frequently.
Yeah, you start to pile shit up. You're like, what am I really gonna do with this?
Yeah.
All right, let's take some calls. Start off with Jack in Seattle. What's up, Jack? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Goes? What's up, Goldfish? And John Morgan, it's good to see you.
Good to hear from you, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. It's funny how you guys just mentioned Mario Lopez, and that's kind of a out there pick. But never forget that Joe Rogan was just a comedian, an actor, and he turned out to be, one of the best guys to do the job.
You're right. No, if you go back in time and just be like, hey, here's this guy, doing news radio or whatever, like this is the guy we're gonna go with. You probably would think, what the hell are they going with that guy for? So, fair point to you, man. Fair point. Maybe we need to give Mario Lopez a fair shake.
Do you remember Jim Brown? How that went?
I just saw swinging.
Man, it's interesting. Like because I definitely let my junkie card lapse. You know, I'm just getting back into watching fights consistently, and my new way of taking fights is if I heard of you and I know you, I pick against you because it's amazing how fast the sport changes.
Yeah, man, that's a funny way to do it, but you're right, man. You pull yourself away for just a little bit, man, and all of a sudden you got a whole new generation of people, hungry up and comers taking your place, man. It's weird, you know. I don't know why it's been striking me so much lately. And I think Uriah was a big one for me too. It's like, man, dude, like not too long, there's not going to be any fighters left that were here when we started doing this. You know what I mean? When we started doing this professionally 10 years ago, most of the people that are here are gone. There's just a few hangers on left, and pretty soon it's going to all be people that we've seen come into the sport. And it's kind of wild to just see that turnover over time. But, man, time waits for no one in this sport. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that's what makes the Bisping thing just even more spectacular. Like him beating Anderson and getting the championship, and that's definitely fight of the year for me. And I just have a question about Ronda's contract. Say she doesn't want to fight again and wants to do something like go wrestle for the WWE.
And you got to get it cleared. Yeah, you got to get it cleared. So to me, I think, knowing the relationship that Dana and Ronda have, I got to think that if she was like, hey, I want to go do this pro wrestling, they're offering me quite a bit of money.
But Dana would still say, go ahead. But if and when you come back, we start here.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. You have to get everything signed off on. They own your promotional rights.
Yeah. So with Heath goes, I think he actually had to what is it, some fight contracts are 8 fights, 40 months.
Right.
And 40 months is 3.5 years or so. Mm-hmm. So I think he actually had to let an expiration come.
But that's not.
But that's what I'm saying.
But there's two ways to go. If you retire, that gets frozen. You're right. You can do that. But if the UFC offers you a fight and you don't take it, then you just extended your contract. So that can keep going in perpetuity. Like now, if they don't offer you in a fight, then now they're in default and you can sue and either have them compensate you or just terminate the deal or whatever the case may be. But
I think I heard that they just came to some sort of an agreement. 8 years had gone by. He fought Brock Lesnar at UFC 87 in Minneapolis, 2008. So by 2016, I think he was good to go. So this right here is Bruce Buffer sheet, and you could just tell, man. That's why these guys are legends in our sport. They're just the detail. Undisputed featherweight champion of the world. He highlights them. I think at the time he just wants to make sure he doesn't have that moment where he's just frozen. It's all there in front of him. It's all laid out. It's very detailed. It's interesting. I don't know. Maybe sugarcoats it a little bit more than it needs to be. But all I see is points that he does not want to forget. Basically, that's all.
And a whole bunch of scribbling.
And he really doesn't look at the card so much. Just kind of glances.
Yeah, he probably looks at them before, as the Vaseline's being applied to the last. Just give it one more of a look over. But I think they're just there in case he needs them.
And it's always funny because, when they break in, new cage door guys or whatever, they don't know that they got to go get his card because, he throws the card on the ground. Yeah. Normally the cage door guy will go and get it. But it's kind of funny, the first time. Because, they'll have new people do it, and, he throws it on the ground, nobody moves, and you can kind of see the referee, look at him like.
Just this last card, was it Cowboy that tried to fist bump him? Every once in a while, someone fist bump him.
Yeah.
And you think it would throw him off his game, but it doesn't. He just keeps chugging along.
I know Dillashaw always kind of yells at him. I know Carl Miller always fist bumped him.
Hardy used to actually recite what he's about to say.
Yeah.
That's actually the first guy I remember doing it. Brian from Boston, what's up, man?
Hey, boys. I don't know what's going on with Sirius, but I hope it gets worked out. I need you on the air. It's not cool.
If you want to catch us on your radio, it's 7 to 9 a.m. the following day. If you want to catch us live, we're just flat out not live. You can catch us on demand that same day at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 to 10, the whole show, or the replay the next day, 7 to 9, Tuesday through Friday, Saturdays, 6 to 8 a.m. But for now, it's just got to be Facebook and YouTube. And the way everything connects through Bluetooth, you should be able to hear us in your car on Facebook or YouTube.
All right. But, nonetheless. Hey, I got two things. I don't know if it's old stuff, but I'd like to cover it if I could. The Michael Bisping, he gets my vote for Fighter of the Year, and I've got just a couple of reasons why I think so. Obviously, the top three, right? He beats Silver, he knocks out Rockhold, and he beats Henderson. If I had told you at the beginning of 2016 that was going to happen and you want to put money on it, you would have taken that bet.
All day.
Secondly, I thought the guy was brilliant on the microphone. After he wins the title, He grabs the mic and he addresses the top 4 guys. I think he calls one guy a pussy. He goes up and down those guys. And then after Romero wins his fight, he's sitting up in the booth, flipping off Romero. So I take that whole body of work for the whole year, and that's why I would make him Fighter of the Year, because of all his extracurricular entertaining activity.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, what's funny is George and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, man. I think Garbrandt made a late run for me to be considered in that. I'm not sure he quite tipped the scale for me, man. I think Michael Bisping's still my Fighter of the Year, man. It just everything that he said, the accomplishments there, man. That's a murderer's row, and I understand it's an aged Anderson Silva, it's an aged Dan Henderson, but it's still Anderson Silva and Dan Henderson, and to have those wins, and man, I can just tell you the feeling of being in that building the night that Michael beat Anderson Silva. I've said it. It's one of my favorite fights of the year. It didn't even make it on our Fight of the Year list, but it's one of my favorite fights of the year. Maybe not necessarily the fight of the year, but the feeling inside that building was like a Hollywood movie to me, man. Michael Bisping finally getting this opportunity, but nobody's really giving him a chance. I mean, even the locals there are like, we're happy for him, but we know we're going to watch our guy get his ass kicked tonight. And he puts those first 2 rounds in the book, and you're like, oh my God, is something special going to get here? Third round happens and he gets clipped at the end of it, basically knocked out. Then you have that whole weird sequence. I mean, is he out? Is he not? We're going to fight on. I remember turning next to Simon Head, and I'm like, well, it looks like we're going to fight on, but come on, Anderson's going to knock him out right at the beginning of the 4th. I mean, you can see that Michael's not well here, and yet somehow he survives the 4th round. And then there's that 5th round, and I remember just watching the clock counting down. You're like, oh my God, can he hang on? He's just trying to survive, and he did it. And man, just such a special moment. And then to come back and to get that title shot in LA, and you're like, good for Mike Bisping, man. He's been doing this for 10 years. Luke Rockhold's going to murder him, but God bless him. He finally got his title shot. Good for him. And then he comes in and knocks him out in the 1st round. You're like, what just happened? And then, to top it all off with the revenge win, I think Michael Bisping.
Well, I a thing of beauty for Michael Bisping. Performance-wise on the field, so that's what I did with Stipe Miocic. Miocic beat 3 future Hall of Famers, 2 former UFC champions, 1 a former Strikeforce Dream and World Grand Prix K1 champ. Like I said, all 3 will be in the Hall of Fame. All 3 are former champions. All 3 were deserving of their place when they fought. Mm-hmm. When he fought Arlovsky had a 6-fight win streak, was ranked number 4. When he fought Verdum was the champ. He fought him in Curitiba, Brazil, in a stadium where everybody was telling him he's going to die. 50,000 were cheering for Verdum. Coming off the Cyborg win and the Shogun win, it was basically finish it off by murdering the American and we all go home happy, and pillage our whatever. And this guy just silenced everybody, silenced the whole stadium, grabbed that belt. It was him. They were all in the 1st round. Then he comes back in Cleveland. A lot of times you'll hear fighters go, oh, my God, I'd rather be on the road. There's pressures at home. You got to do all the media. You got to wake up in the morning and do the morning shows. Your friends, your family, they all want the tickets, this, that, whatever. What does he do? Blast that guy, too. All in 8 months. I don't know, man. So I went with that guy. I went with that guy because I just thought his stats screamed the loudest. There was no judges that needed to tell me who won. It was just him murking 3 fools. And not even fools. I can't even say that because I respect all those guys. But basically blasting 3 superstars
in the first
round, just leaving no doubt, And again, I think I said Arlovsky was ranked number 4, Verdum was ranked number 1, and I think Overeem was ranked number 4 or 3 coming into his fight. All deserving. Nobody got ushered to the front of the line, nothing like that.
You can't even nitpick the performance. You can't even go back and say, well, you should have. I mean, it was perfect.
Right. I mean, did he take a shot? Yeah, but he shucked it off and came back and won. So that's who I went with in mind. And I thought
Nunes had
man.
2
future Hall of Fame wins. Everybody's kind of piling on and say, she retired? No. She beat Misha, but Pennington retired Misha, if you want to be technical. Rousey is yet to retire, so we can't give her that yet. You know what I mean? In March, if Rousey announces it, then we can say, oh, yeah, she retired her, but she hasn't announced it yet. But still, I was impressed with what Nunes did. She just had the 1 decision win against Valentina Shevchenko. So 2 knockouts. 1 was a submission, 1 was a knockout. So 2 finishes, but 1 decision win. Let's get this break out of the way, and then we'll talk to John from Cleveland, Scott in Utah, Sam All-Jam, Marco from Waco, Aaron from Texas. That means 1 line's clear. Get in at 866-522-2846. We're going to blast through some calls when we come back.
Jolene, Jolene, Jolene.
There's nobody important on Facebook anyway.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Saturday at 8:15 Eastern, the NFL playoffs continue with an NFC wildcard showcase when Matt Stafford and the Detroit Lions take on Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. Catch the Lions call on Sirius 81 XM 225 or the Seahawks call on Sirius XM Channel 82. Enjoy the national broadcast on Sirius XM NFL Radio Channel 88, or listen to your team's play-by-play calls on your phone with the Sirius XM app.
I'm excited about the playoffs. I know the chances of this happening are slim and none, but just due to the UFC schedule, I will be in Houston on Super Bowl weekend, and I booked myself an extra day just in case.
Damn.
Just in case maybe the Cowboys can find a way. I know there's still a long way to go, but just in case.
Dude, they won 14 games this year.
13. They lost the last. Yeah, they lost the last.
Right.
But I mean, they played third string quarterback most of the game, Mark Sanchez. But yeah, just in case. But even and then even
You'd
if
go?
they do,
You'd pony up the ticket?
That's the whole thing. Is it
on
like
a bucket list?
You got it.
I think I probably would. I mean, I don't know what I could. I mean, it'd be one of those things where it's like I'm not trying to like score a 50-yard line seat or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just let me pay a couple $100 and get in the door, just so I could say. I mean, everybody that's ever been to a Super Bowl that I know is like, listen, just like you'd probably expect. I mean, football is one of those sports that's actually better on TV than it is in the building. You know what I mean? But if by chance the Cowboys could make it in there, man, and I could have a chance to go to a Cowboys Super Bowl, and have my flight already paid for, you know what I mean? I'm already there, like that. I would definitely consider that a bucket list. It's funny. I always say it. I'm 38, man, so I grew up when the Cowboys won their 3 Super Bowls. I was in my early teens. As a kid, I got spoiled, dude. I think I was just like, oh shit, this is how it's supposed to be, man. Your team's good. You just win the Super Bowl every couple years, And now it's 20 years later, and I'm still waiting to win a damn playoff game. So cautiously optimistic, of course. It's been fun to watch the team come together. You keep waiting for the bubble to burst with the rookies and all that. But, I mean, man, you watch them week in and week out. It's a pretty good team. So, anyway, just with you reading the NFL playoffs there, I'm throwing that out there. If for some reason they happen to be there, I'm going to be there. And, if anybody has an extra ticket and just wants to talk some MMA, I'll buy a frosty beverage or two. Just holler at your boy.
All right, let's talk to John in Cleveland. What's up, John? How you doing?
Hey.
Hey.
This is Sean from Cleveland. What's going on, man?
Sean or John?
It's Sean.
Oh, all right. What's up, Ron?
Sean from Cleveland. What's up, man?
I know. What's up, buddy?
All right, man. I like you guys' show. I haven't finally got a chance to call in, but I got to take a late lunch to do it. But hitting on the Miocic deal, that's actually, it really helped Cleveland out, big time with the MMA following, because now everybody talks about him, or when they hear about I like to watch fights, they're like, oh, that Miocic guy, It's like, yeah, I knew him for a while, or watched him for a while, but it definitely helped.
It was
with the local people here.
I was going to say it was really cool that week in Cleveland of that pay-per-view. Everybody we talked to knew him, and everybody knew he had a fight coming up. Sometimes you go into town, and even if it's a hometown fight, your Uber drivers, your bartenders, whatever, they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Literally every single person we talked to was like, oh yeah, Miocic's fighting this weekend, can't wait. And like, wow.
They all the guys we're picking all have their side
media
stories.
Brought that really good. Oh yeah,
That's
the
awesome.
media got him. I mean, they did really well. They did really well promoting that fight and getting everybody to watch or talk about it, at the time. So it was actually pretty nice.
Epic summer for Believeland. The Cavs, Miocic actually won first, then the Cavs, and then Game 7, man. If the Indians would have pulled that out, that would have been one of the most miracle runs ever for a city.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for calling in, buddy. Call in more often, all right?
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, take care.
I will
see
try.
you
Thank
later.
you. Bye.
All right, let's go to next up is Marco in Waco. What's up, Marco?
Marco from Waco. ¿Qué pasa, vatos? Hey,
pasa?
John Morgan. I mean, you got the MMA Roadshow live on YouTube, man. You look good there.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, it's taking over, man. Taking over. Since this dumbasses and cities I don't have our guys live, MMA Roadshow got to take over the whole thing. Hey, on that, you guys were talking about Mike Golder and him leaving, and I guess his contract is still up until July, so they won't have a complete replacement until July. Right now on the roster, they only got 2 active play-by-play guys. It's Jon Anik and then John Wooden that has the international or European cards. So is Jon Anik to Bird the Bronx. I don't see anybody else, or whatever his name is. According to him, he's not doing play-by-play, and they got a whole bunch of color guys, Stan, Rogan, Hardy, Florian, and even Cruz and DC have done it before, but do play-by-play. So what do you guys think is the solution? Are they bringing somebody? Well, what are they going to do, man? We'll let you guys catch you guys tomorrow.
All right, we'll see you, Marco.
Yeah, I think Anik's definitely going to have to handle the heavy load to start out. I think we'll see Grisham do a little bit, even though he hasn't commented on it yet, and UFC hasn't. I think we'll probably see him get a go or two at it as well.
Play-by-play.
We'll see.
Okay.
I mean, playing traffic cop will. He's done it before. He's done it with other combat sports. So it is interesting, man. I know people like to
They singing from the restroom? Or?
I don't know. All right. It's an awkward way to start the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show.
I think somebody on hold was singing it, and somehow it came over the airwaves.
It actually sounds like Ferris Bueller is on a parade float outside, and Danny's sticking out the microphone, and he's scooping up whatever's coming out of the speaker transmission.
Maybe I am outside.
Maybe. I don't know. Shout out to Gavin McCarran goes. He's there every day. He's asking about Goes Jitsu shirts. If you're going to sell them.
Yeah,
Alfonso Berry says he'll take one. Where do you want people to hit you up at?
GoesJitsu.com. Or you can hit me up on social media, and I'll just
social
give
media
you an answer there, yeah.
There you go. He will sell some of those. These Junkie Nation, they're for sale, too.
Active. Mail some out.
All right, let's get these guys in. Start off with Sam Aljam in Pennsylvania. What's up, Sam?
I'm calling into the show, and the White Shadows in studio co-hosting. I feel like I'm in a DeLorean, and I just went back to 2009 and shit.
It is, right? It's old school right here.
Listen, I know you guys are pressed for time. I had a compelling argument for why Nunes should be Fighter of the Year before both Miocic and Bisping, but I'll save it for another day, and I'll just leave you guys with this question. John, I was just curious. I'll take it off the air, by the way. John, I was just curious as to what your thoughts are as a journalist with the post-fight presses now when they're bringing in one fighter at a time versus having a whole day is full of fighters. All right? All right, family, take care of yourselves. I'll leave you guys with that. Easy.
All right, Sam.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. I personally like it, and I'll tell you why I like it. Number one, once you get a fighter, they're engaged. They're right there, and all the journalists, we can kind of work together, and we can kind of build off each other's questions, and it just kind of keeps a guy going. I think you saw great examples of it the other night. Dominic Cruz, for instance, Cody Garbrandt. I mean, they're really able to get something going, and because it's such a focused conversation. It makes it way easier on us from a logistical standpoint, just because, like, for editing videos and stuff like that, it's all, like, one file, so it makes it way easier. But I like that aspect of it. The other thing, too, is you don't have, like, 6 fighters there, and all the questions are going on. I think about, like, Derek Lewis, like, laying down on the dais or whatever. Guys that are just like, what the hell am I even here for? So from a logistical standpoint, I love that. I have seen the one criticism, I guess, that people say is there's no back and forth, mentioning, like, Michael Bisping. I mean, think about that epic post-fight press conference that Michael Bisping had when he was going off on Rockhold and everybody else, and you're not going to get that anymore because you're not going to have that back and forth. But I think that's okay. I mean, I think those moments were so few and far between that most of what you had was an athlete sitting there bored while nothing was going on, and then you get one question here and one question there, and the questions don't really build off each other, and they don't really kind of keep a conversation going. So from a logistical point of view, to be honest, I really, really do like it.
Scott in Utah. What's up, Scott?
Hey, what's up, boys?
What's up?
And hello, John Morgan.
What's going on?
Hey, thanks for the pick. I got to take a pic with you after that Salt Lake City show. Felt sorry for you, man. You're like the only press guy there, right? On that table.
I had plenty of elbow room that night, man. That was pretty wild. Like there wasn't that much media to begin with, and then for some reason, like, they just didn't seat anybody next to me. I guess they decided I liked my privacy or whatever. So it was kind of funny.
People thought you were a judge on TV.
Cool.
Yeah, right.
All right. Hey, I wanted to bring up Garbrandt. He called out Dillashaw in the ring after his fight, and then I guess as his post presser, he brought up Cruz again. I was thinking, come on, man. It's got to be Dillashaw, right? That guy deserves it. The dude beat Suncial. He just owned Lineker. And I don't think he lost to Cruz the first time. I mean, I feel frustrated for Dillashaw. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's funny. From Garbrandt's point of view, like, I kind of respect it. I mean, I respect the fact that he's like, hey, man, I beat this guy, but he was a great champion, and I'll happily go do it again if that's what the UFC wants. You know what I mean? But to me, yeah, I think Dillashaw. Cruz had already said, I get it. Dillashaw's probably next. I think Dillashaw should be next. Dillashaw would say he's next. Garbrandt had already said. The only thing I could think of, it was like, a little bit of next-level trash talk from Cody Garbrandt where he's like, maybe it's Dillashaw, but really, I think Cruz is the guy that deserves it, just to F with TJ Dillashaw a little bit, you know what I mean? But to me, I I don't take anything away from Cody Garbrandt for saying it, because to me that's what you want a fighter to say, right? Like, dude, I'll fight any of you sons of bitches. Just come on, line it up. But for me, all day, TJ Dillashaw's the proper next fight there.
What stood out to me is what Cruz must have been thinking when he said, you know what, I just mopped the floor with him. I'll do it again. That, to me, if I'm Cruz, I'm thinking, God damn, this guy does not fear me one bit.
Not at all.
Maybe I should take another fight.
I don't fall into that conspiracy stuff much. Honestly, I just tend to let the sport the sport be the sport. But once in a while I hear stuff and I go, okay, so what I was reading behind the scenes was that he probably did want Dillashaw, and maybe someone may have whispered in his ear, nah, stick to the Cruz line. Why? Because of the MMA, AA, and TJ possibly being with CAA. Or maybe Faber telling Cody, fuck with him. I don't know. You start hearing a couple of those, I'm like, yeah, I could see that too. But I think more than anything, it's Cruz probably not wanting to fight right away that will make it so that it's Cody and TJ anyway, which is kind of what I want to see. Nothing against Cruz, but I think Cruz has to take a step back, see what was wrong, and I think what would help him get back to the title is beating up someone else, and then being ready to fight, whether it's TJ, who we beat once, or Cody with some adjustments, and not just there's too many fighters that go, I want it back. Conor was this close to losing to Nate Diaz, and imagine the catastrophe that would have been, but he pulled it off, so props to him. But Scott, thanks for calling in, man. That was a great question.
All right, guys. See ya.
We'll see ya. Let's talk to Joe Lauzon. He's in the co-main event slot at UFC 103. Speaking of some quick news, John Dodson has offered to step in for Brian Caraway. Brian Caraway was pulled from the fight. I guess it was an injury. He was going to fight Jimmy Rivera. I like the Dodson name. Quick way for him to rebound and get back in the mix. But nothing's official, correct, John?
Nothing official, yeah. There's some people volunteering. Some newcomers are throwing their hands in the air and saying they'll step up. Man, hell of a way to make a UFC debut against Jimmy Rivera. You got Dodson in there, so we're just waiting on news.
Yep. On that card, Joe will be facing Marcin Held. They will be in the co-main event slot. And, again, this is a Sunday offering for the UFC, January 15th, at the Talking Stick Resort Arena in Phoenix, Arizona. Joining us now is Joe Lauzon. What's up, Joe? How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going?
Good. Welcome back to MMA Junkie Radio. You're on with George and Goes. We have John Morgan as well from the MMA Roadshow. Goes, tell Joe that story you were telling us about how long we've been doing the show and how long we've been covering Joe. How did you used to book Joe Lauzon in the past?
Well, for one, I used to book him through MySpace.
Right.
And two, we would have to set up a certain time where he would leave his desk, and I think he would go to the restroom, right? And you would just hang out there, do the interview, and then he'd get back to work. You'd have to, take a break.
So back in his computer programmer days.
Yeah. That's how long ago that was.
I couldn't let work know what was going on. It would ruin my story about what happened. I fell downstairs or something. It couldn't ruin the story. I couldn't let them know that I was off on my free time. I was fighting people for money, trying to keep them to wraps.
Hey, so Joe, I mean, where are you? Where do you think you are? By the way, as far as your career is concerned, I'm not going to ask you if you're going to retire anytime soon. But if this were a baseball game, are you between second base and third base? Have you rounded third? Do you kind of have an idea of when you think you may just not want to do this anymore, or is it still fun?
I don't know. It depends on the day. Most days I feel awesome. Every once in a while, especially during fight camp, I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? I feel like I've been in a car accident or something. Nothing major, but just sore stuff, sore ribs, sore hands, sore knee, sore shoulder, sore neck, whatever. But most days I feel great. I really don't feel any worse than I did, when I first started. I think if anything, I do a much better job of taking care of my body. I limp around a whole lot less than I used to. I tap the submissions a lot sooner. I feel good overall. I think it's going to come down to more of when am I not interested in going to the gym anymore, not interested in training anymore. But right now, I love getting better. I love getting in the gym. So I don't really know.
So the gym wars kind of tell you more where you stand versus the actual fight themselves.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And I think I've done a really good job since the beginning about not engaging in gym wars all the time. Some guys they're doing hard, crazy sparring all the time, whether they have a fight coming or not. And I'm not interested in getting head whatsoever. If I don't have a fight coming up, if I had someone like Joe Proctor with a fight coming up or something, I'll 100% help him out or someone like that. But I'm not just sparring for the sake of sparring. You know, like there's no need. You know, I'm always in the gym, I'm always hitting mitts, I'm always working on wrestling and grappling and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. But I'm all set with getting in the head, you know, for no reason at all.
Marcin Held is an interesting matchup because I know you love leg lock submissions. He loves them as well. So I can't wait to see you guys do battle, man, once this fight hits the ground.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun fight. I really do. You know, I think that we both have okay stand-up, but neither one of us are killer on the feet. I think that we both have okay wrestling, but neither of us are a crazy wrestler. But I think we both have very good jiu-jitsu, you know. So I think that, you know, I'm going to take him down. He's going to go for some weird rolling leg lock, or he's going to take me down, and I'm going to try and scurry away and try to punch him in the face, or, you know, I don't really know what's going to happen. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun, though. I think this is like a great grappler. Like, if you enjoy grappling and jiu-jitsu and transitions and stuff like that, I think this is going to be an awesome fight to watch.
Are you so good at them that you don't need to import a leg lock type expert, or do you always have to do that just so that you continue to get better and get pushed?
Honestly, I think I have one of the best leg lock guys in the entire country at my gym. This kid, Kenny Levitaire. And he wins every freaking tournament. He's probably got like 30 Naga belts and stuff like that. He's got so many freaking, he just heel hooks everyone. You know, he leg locks everyone, you know. So we've been working, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. You know, we spend 30, 40 minutes with him, you know, just starting leg locks and just working out of it and just, you know, working from there. So, I mean, I was really fortunate. I didn't really need to go and find, you know, a leg lock guy. You know, I could have brought someone in, but, you know, but I was really, really lucky. I got someone that's in my gym that, you know, I train with all the time anyways, just getting his take on things a little bit and just being in those really, really bad spots and having to work my way up.
I think I've asked you this before. We always have a new audience, though. Do you ever feel like you're not in your last fight, for example, one of the last, Diego Sanchez, is that's more of a classic. These guys just needed to fight, but there's these young guys that are testing you, so it's almost like the same position where Pulver was maybe a little bit of a stepping stone for you, and yet now you're at the age where you're 8 years older than Held. Do you ever feel like the UFC is now putting you in a position where you could be a stepping stone for someone else?
Well, I mean, every single fight is like that. I mean, regardless of age or anything else, you know, every fight is a stepping stone, you know, one way or the other, you know. So, like you said, like the Pulver fight, the fight with Diego, you know, it could have gone either way. You know, he could have, you know, smashed me and knocked me out or submitted me. You know, unfortunately, you know, for me, it was the other way around. You know, I beat him up and, you know, he was a good stepping stone for me. It's just every single fight is like that, you know. But, you know, the beginning of camp, we build every opponent I have up to like this big monster. It's like, oh, this guy has such good stand-up. He has such good wrestling. He has such good jiu-jitsu. You know, in this fight, you know, he's so good at footlock. You know, how are we going to deal with that? You know, how are we going to counter all that stuff? You know, and we work. You know, we spend the entire camp working on taking away all things they're good at, negating everything, and working on our own counters and what we're going to try and do instead. You know, so it could. I mean, I feel like every fight that's like a major issue. You know, regardless of age or, you know, point of your career or whatever else. You know, every fight, you know, you could use the other guy as a stepping stone, or they can use you. So, I don't think it really matters that much, the age thing. You know, like I think that I'm in much better shape than most people my age. So I'm not really worried about that. You know, I think I've had a lot less gym wars. I think I've had a few fights that were kind of tough where I got beat up a little bit, but nothing crazy. You know, I think there are local guys that have worse fights than I've had up until my entire career now, and I've had 20-something fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about it too much. You know, you know, someone's gonna, you know, there's gonna be someone that I'm expected to beat that, you know, is gonna get me at some point, but I mean, it's not gonna be from a lack of preparation. You know, it's gonna be just, you know, his night, you know, and, you know, he put together a good game plan.
Coming from right field completely with this question, and I'm not implying anything, but I'm just curious. Every third or fourth fighter we have on the show, I tend to ask, USADA, how often have they ever paid you a visit since their existence with the UFC?
So USADA has showed up twice for me. So I've done you know, USADA testing every time I fought, but then they've shown up to my house one time, and then there was one day we had like a little bit of snow or rain or something like that, and they showed up at my gym. He's like, I tried to get to your house, but I was late. You know, he missed me, so he came to my gym. But I've been tested twice, you know, and I'm pumped. You know, I think it's awesome. You know, like I always joke that, you know, the more people you saw to test, the more I'm going to rise up the ranks. You know, because there's so many people that are doing crap that thought, you know, USADA should be getting Fighter of the Year for sure. Knocking out everyone. So, like I'm the point where, like, I used to take like regular like protein and glutamine and stuff like that, and like I never got crazy about stuff, but like super like bare essentials for like lifting, like multivitamin. protein, glutamine, something like that. And that was pretty much it, But now, I just don't think it's worth the risk. I think that so I don't take anything. I don't take a multivitamin. I don't take glutamine. I'll take anything because, guys are gonna get. Someone's gonna get bagged. Taking something that like they thought was nothing, or they thought it was like something super generic, but they can get caught. And for me, I think the added benefit is not really there. It's not worth getting caught with stuff. So I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm not gonna take anything for supplements. I know I'm not gonna worry. So if they want to come and test me every single day, that's fine because I know I'm gonna I know I'm gonna be clean.
This will be your 23rd fight against Marcin Held on January 15th, UFC Fight Night 103. Of the 22 you've already fought, what percentage would you put on you suspect may have been enhanced of your opponents?
I don't know, because you see guys getting caught, for stuff that some guys are like, oh, that guy's definitely doing something. Like, I'm not surprised there. Mm-hmm. And then other guys you think, oh, I never would have thought that guy. I have no idea. You know what I mean? Maybe 20%,
okay.
Maybe 1 in 5.
Right.
Maybe I fought, maybe 4 or 5 guys, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I don't know, because there are guys that, you see and you're like, oh, that guy's not doing anything. Like, he doesn't look like anything, special. Mm-hmm. But then he goes and gets tested for something, you know? So, I don't know.
George, you brought up the leg locks and people bringing in leg lock specialists. Right. But I have a feeling with the way Joe is, there was probably a moment where he said, because a lot of people think about, you're bringing those guys in for leg lock defense. But I think at some point Joe said, what would be cool? What if I submitted him with a leg lock? That's the type of guy Joe is. Joe, has that ever crossed your mind? Is that something? I know you can't reveal all your cards.
Oh, of course. I think that, the smart game plan is, stay away from the leg lock stuff. If this guy's, really good at leg locks, which he is, then don't go out there, and play with fire, more than you have to. Defend the leg locks, get away. But, if we find ourselves in, like, a perfect situation, I think it would be pretty awesome to go out there and submit this guy back. He's so good at leg locks and get all these submissions. Go and take it to him. And I definitely think we can. I 100% think we can. I think he's very good at leg locks, but I think I'm much better at leg locks. Honestly, I think that a lot of times going for leg locks is not the smartest thing in a fight because a lot of times you end up on bottom, you get punched in the head. So it's not really the reward is usually not worth the risk. It's usually way too much of a risk. To go for it and go to, and I got a feeling, we're gonna take advantage of him going for leg locks on us. He's gonna go for leg locks on us, and we're gonna defend, we're gonna stay safe, and then we're gonna punch him. And I think that's gonna really add up. I don't think he's gonna catch us off guard. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, I've caught tons of guys off guard with stuff they weren't expecting, but maybe he'll catch me off guard. But I just don't see it happening. I don't think so. The guy's very good, but I think I've been doing jiu-jitsu. I think I've probably maybe been in the UFC long. He's been doing jiu-jitsu. So, we'll see how it all shakes out.
Rewatch that fight with Belcher and Paul Harris. I'm telling you, it was psychological. When Paul Harris realized, oh, shit, not only can this guy defend, he's attacking, you could just see, like, he just had that oh, shit moment. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But anyway, proceed, Go. Sorry to hijack.
Yep.
Joe, how do you assess his last performance? Because we've all seen him. He's a great fighter. He did well for himself in Bellator. But a lot of people were pointing to possibly octagon jitters. Do you feel like that may have been the case in his fight?
I think he had a lot of things going against him. There's octagon jitters. Where was that fight? Was that fight in Mexico City? Wasn't that altitude or something too? Or was that Vegas?
Let me see.
Yeah, it was. It was.
It was Mexico City.
Mexico City? Yeah, I mean, so that's a big thing too. You know what I mean? Like when I fought Kenny Florian in Denver, Colorado, and like I remember like walking off the plane and being exhausted. We tried doing sprints and all kinds of other stuff, and like it's a big difference. You go to altitude if you're not used to it. So I mean that could have been a part of it. It could be octagon jitters. To me, the fact he's going against Diego Sanchez is so tough and so good. That could be part of it. So I don't. I don't chalk it up as like, oh, he didn't do very good against Diego, so I'm going to go out there and smash him. Like, I don't look at it like that, But I think that with every fight, there's a lot going on. It could have been a bad training camp. Could have been, he had an injury in training camp and he tried to, he couldn't do everything he wanted to do. There's so many things that can, kind of play into the equation of how you're going to do on fight night. So we're training for the best version of him. We're expecting him to go out there and have great stand up and hit great takedowns and, go for rolling leg locks and have great control and great position and finish fast and all sorts of stuff. And, but I think we're ready for him. I really do. Camp's been great. I have one more sparring session, so knock on wood. Nothing happens during that. That'll be this weekend, and then other than that, I mean, it's pretty much cruise control. Otherwise, we're gonna get through one bad session, and then that's it.
Can't wait to see it, Joe. I love your fights, and it sounds like we're gonna place you between second and third. You've yet to round third. There's more fights coming. You always bring it, man, and it's always great to have you on the show. So thanks for making some time for us.
I'll always have fun on your show. I really do.
All right, take care, brother.
All right, catch you later.
All right.
Bye.
That is Joe Lauzon, folks. Follow him on Twitter, @Joe Lauzon. I love the way he just takes command of his career. He'll be vlogging, leading towards, letting you know how camp went, how these workouts went, where his mind's at, traveling. His buddies are cool. They're funny. They keep it lively, and it's just fun to be a fan of him.
He's always been on the forefront of that stuff.
Yep.
All right, can you imagine USADA showing up at one of his barbecues and they're waterboarding each other?
Yeah, exactly. Leg kicking each other. I think at the last one, him and Danny fought. Did you see that? The little street fight they had? Yeah.
We saw that this morning. Actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay. This is, we have a new break structure here. So this is a 2.5. We'll be right back after this break. We'll be talking to Jon Anik, the play-by-play announcer for the UFC, also host of the Anik and Florian podcast. See you in a few.
One guy gave himself a nickname to score chicks, and the other is George. Together, they form MMA Junkie Radio. Now listen up and learn something, will ya?
Coming to you live from the Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook. If you're ever in town, stop by and pay us a visit. The show starts at 10 a.m., so sneak in here a few minutes early. We'll put some headphones on you. We've got some water there in the fridge, and you can hang out with us. And a new coffee maker, so we expect to see you sometime in 2017. Also, if you want to stay here, it's 877-632-7000. Check out their social media, too, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.com. Oftentimes, you'll get their best deals there. Let them know the @MMA Junkie Radio guys sent you. Speaking of Twitter, I'm at MMA Junkie George. That's at The Goes. And this is at MMA Junkie John. John's the host of the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan, along with his partner, Cold Coffee. Check them out, dropping on Fridays. We got another podcast host here, Jon Anik. We call him host at the desk for Fox and play-by-play announcer, but he does have the Anik and Florian podcast dropping Mondays, Tuesdays. They're on top of it. It's a fun show. Joining us now is Jon Anik. What's up, John? How you doing?
Boys, a bunch of legends just sitting around the Mandalay Bay on Thursday. I love it.
Man, it's great to have you, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Home in South Florida. A little breather here before it gets crazy again. So just enjoying some downtime, ready for the NFL playoffs. Appreciate all the free plays coming in my inbox from Gorgeous George with the college hoop stuff. Keep that going.
Yeah.
All is good.
Yeah, nice 3-0 there yesterday. We needed that one,
now
too.
It's 4 straight.
Yeah, we needed that one, that's for sure. All right, so, John, first of all, talk about, we've kind of putting UFC 207 to bed here all week with all the different, people that have been on our show and Goes and I and the calls that we've taken. We haven't gotten your take, though. You were there at the T-Mobile Arena. Have a new champion and a champion that defended. A couple legends, went down. First of all, in the main event, Amanda Nunes, I think you said it best, dusted off Ronda Rousey. Did you think it could possibly go down like that? I know that you had to, in both scenarios, think how can one beat the other. And, yes, we thought, well, Nunes does have power. She's explosive. But did you think it could be that perfect and that executed that well in 48 seconds over such a top-notch fighter like Ronda Rousey?
No, I certainly wouldn't have bet it. I think a lot of the experts that I read who were picking Amanda Nunes to win were doing so by first-round knockout or TKO, but I just don't think anybody thought it would materialize within a minute. I think maybe it would have been more attritive late in the first round with a really beat-up Ronda Rousey who had at least gotten in the clinch a little bit, attempted a takedown here or there. Just an amazing event, and I said on our show, having to go on the air 30 seconds after Amanda Nunes knocked out Ronda Rousey was sort of one of the weirder things I've had to do in TV. We do it all the time. We do these post-fight shows, but we knew we were going to go on quickly, and it was really hard to just collect my thoughts after that moment. It was just stunning the way it all went down. You had 400-plus days of build-up for Ronda Rousey's return, only to see it come crashing down in a matter of seconds, and it came on the heels of a classic between Cody Garbrandt and Dominic Cruz that went the full 25 minutes, so you thought it was settling in for a little bit of fighting, and you didn't get it. And I would also say, too, the event was so great. Like, we could spend 30 minutes on Amanda Nunes, right, if we just wanted to lead the show with that and talk about Nunes. She gave you enough in that fight and in that fight week, the way she handled everything to talk about for 30 minutes. So big ups to Amanda Nunes.
Hey, John, it's funny, speaking on your podcast, Anik and Florian podcast, the latest episode, I think Kenny kind of hinted at the fact that he'd heard that Ronda hadn't done any sparring leading into it. Curious, when he dropped that little nugget, were you privy to similar type information, or was that news to you, and had you been hearing similar?
We were hearing rumblings. I think he was maybe having a conversation I wasn't privy to, but you can be sure I had my ear to the corner seeing what was going on. But it certainly looked like she hadn't done a whole lot of it. And, again, it's not a lot of footage to analyze, right? But she definitely had that deer in the headlights look. Her head certainly was firmly on that center line, and she just didn't look like she was conditioned to being in the pocket and doing things defensively. And, somebody joked, yeah, she had sparring, but was the other person hitting back, which I thought was kind of funny. But, no, I think there's a lot of criticism to be levied in a lot of different directions, but to me, it ultimately does come down to the athlete and the championship performance on fight night. Cody Garbrandt had the training camp of his life. He had 4 training camps this year. It doesn't mean he goes and beats Dominic Cruz on December 30th. So I think you got to look at Ronda Rousey emotionally and psychologically. She seemed ill-equipped to handle fight night, and that's really problematic. The physical, she was in great shape, whether she had shored up defenses. Certainly didn't see that early on, but she's got a lot deeper problems, I think, than head movement at this point.
Let me ask the three of you something. Goes, John and John. Have you guys subconsciously, in your descriptions of the fight, how it went down, have you tended to back off just maybe any guilty feelings that maybe you were part of that media that piled on, and just crushed this chick's soul last November?
I always thought that was weird that people say the media turned on Ronda. I don't know what we would have done. I can't look back on anything I wrote and feel guilty about it. Did I call it a shocking upset? Yes. Was it a shocking upset? Yes. Was it a devastating knockout?
Yes.
Yeah. So I never really understood that narrative. I'm not going to lie. I never really understood that narrative of the media turn on Ronda Rousey. I saw a lot of fans turn on Ronda Rousey, and I saw a shitload of people in the comments section that embarrassed me to be a human being to see some of the things that they were saying. I saw a lot of revisionist history of people saying she was never that good. But I never took part in any of that, and I still don't. I mean, say what you will after these 2 devastating losses. There's no doubt we've seen the holes in her game. We've seen the problems that she has, but I don't think you can be a revisionist and go back and say she was never that good. This was a media hype train of creation. I mean, what she did was incredible. Her run to where she got was amazing, and man, the magnifying glass that she was under. I mean, the amount of media that she did. I sat there and watched it event after event. The number of interviews she did. The fact that you got a room full of athletes and literally every single camera in there is trained on this one person and taking every single word she says and making it into a headline. I mean, you let me talk for an hour, I'm going to say some dumb shit. You know what I mean? And then for it to be all of a sudden like that's the headline. Man, I don't think people can understand the weight that was on her shoulders, and I definitely don't think it's right for people to try to take it away. So anyway, I say all that to say no, because I never felt like I took part in that to begin with.
All right, how about you, John? Have you ever subconsciously felt like, okay, just make sure, you tell it like it is, but, hopefully I'm not a part of this, and then I'll let Ghost chime in. How about you, Jon Anik?
Yeah, well, we got to be super careful on the broadcast side because potentially we're calling the fights of these individuals. So a lot of the noise you try to tune out. It's interesting when it comes to this fight, George, because intangibly you had to look at those things for Ronda Rousey. I mean, Miesha Tate sat on the desk with us and changed her pick from Amanda Nunes to Ronda Rousey just based upon the physical and fight week and the way she thought Ronda was handling the limited things we saw her in. Miesha changed her pick, right? So that was all we really could focus on. We weren't able to focus on anything because she wasn't giving us anything. And as far as a lot of people was concerned, that was going to be something that worked to her advantage. It didn't. And this is a girl who likes to smile. Like, I'd like to see her get back to that. And it's sad, after the Holly Holm fight, one thing critically I did say, and maybe it's not even that critical, but here's Ronda Rousey walking back into her new life, right? Luke Rockhold loses to Michael Bisping. Welcome to your new life, bro. I saw him 3 months later. Luke just shook my hand and just is shaking his head still, So you walk back into your new life, and not a lot of people can handle it. I don't think she handled it well, but certainly don't look at me to pile on when the world is piling on her,
How about you guys?
No, I absolutely agree with Morgan saying, and I think Ronda herself, I think she's confusing media within itself, but also the fans. I think the reactions from the fans was the heaviest that weighed on her.
Right.
But I think what you're getting at is, do you mean like when we describe the fight, staying away from words like destruction, annihilation? I've caught myself maybe not doing that because of her reaction.
It made me think too.
So yeah, I guess I am guilty of that. Let me ask you guys something though. Every building in Las Vegas has a soul. It has bones, all that. And when you walk into Caesar's Palace, you go, this is where Sugar Ray fought Marvin Hagler.
Right.
And even MGM had that big banner, home of Floyd Mayweather, right? T-Mobile, is that home of Amanda Nunes right now? Does she own that building?
She's got a piece.
Early leader in the clubhouse, right?
Is that not the big memory in that place?
Yeah, she definitely has some history there.
Done well so far.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Okay, so I also subconsciously was thinking about, how to, these athletes, as we cover them. I'm always trying to learn from guys like John, both Johns here, and everybody else. There's some great media people. But then I saw Clemson destroy Ohio State, and I thought, man, those guys are taking it on the chin as well. Social media, the announcers, and it reassured me that we're just doing our jobs. If that's what it's called, a destruction, getting dusted, getting KTFO, whatever, that's what happened. You know what I mean? It's our job, and so I don't know. I felt good about the job, especially us at Junkie had done all year. I don't think anybody was ever out of line.
I'll say this, and maybe it'll get me in hot water with my bosses or whatever, but I will say another Gannett outlet did publish the 12 best memes to come out of Ronda Rousey's knockout, and I basically hung my head when I saw that come out. I was like, really? This is what we're doing now? Get the I didn't see that. I was a little disappointed.
It's interesting, though, because she's got as much love, if not more so, than she does hate, right? How about the quarterback of the Houston football Texans, Brock Osweiler? I know his bank account's fat, but it is nothing but criticism, and he's maybe the 25th best quarterback on the entire planet. And it's literally there has just been 6 months of all negativity and everybody piling on. So there's a lot of that. Like, I don't know. We get criticized in the media to whatever extent. I don't think I could deal with life as Brock Osweiler. Even with $20 million in the bank, it's one bomb after the next for that guy. Ronda's not dealing with that.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Hey, you know what? I was going to transition to football at some point, and then we'll come back to Cruz and Garbrandt. But the Pats run that they're on, how much have you gotten to enjoy that, John? Have you taken it for granted, like, I'll get to a game, but have you gotten to either a Super Bowl, an AFC championship, or any sort of a classic, and do you plan on it? Because I know you're a huge fan, but, brother, this thing can't go on forever. I think Brady's pushing 40, and Belichick, who knows how long he'll be doing X's and O's.
I think we've been saying that for years, though, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, I got my fix 2001, 3, and 4 when I was still in that area, and I was paying way too much for tickets, but I went regularly. My grandparents, and we had season tickets back in the day when the New England Patriots were the laughing stock of the NFL. So we remember we would just go to Foxborough Stadium. It wasn't a question of whether they'd win or lose, how many the Dolphins would beat them by. So thankfully things have turned around. I actually have one story where I went to the Snow Bowl, the Tuck Rule game, right?
Yeah? Really?
And
with the Raiders?
I think I can't believe I haven't told you guys this on your show. So, dude, I left, right? I still contend as a diehard Patriots fan that was a fumble. So I had a few hops, obviously, but I left because Tom Brady had fumbled the football. I mean, I didn't know anything about Tuck Rule. I watched the play. I was on the 50-yard line. He fumbled, and I couldn't get back in. I heard the crowd pop. Obviously, the play had been overturned and ruled an incompletion, but I never made it back in there and was embarrassed to tell that story for a few years after the fact. But I will say, we got the Korean Zombie and Dennis Bermudez in Houston. So if the Patriots are fortunate enough to get out of what is a very weak AFC this year and run into the Dallas Cowboys in Houston, then I would try to pull some strings and see if Fox could get me in the building because I've never been to a Super Bowl.
Well, Mr. Anik, we talked about earlier, but as a Dallas man born and raised, I actually booked myself an extra day in Houston just in case something nice happens. So I'm not flying out till Monday. So if you happen to hear of anything, just holler at your boy.
John might have a date. Yeah, it may have worked out there.
Well, dude, hey, no, if I get a pair, you and Sean Shelby can fight for the extra ticket. But if the Cowboys are in, dude. If the Cowboys are in, I think it'd be a strong lean in your direction. Dude, I just bet them at the Palms when I was in Vegas. I shopped the price. They were 4-1 to win it all at the Palms. A little late in the game, but that was the best price going into the playoffs I could find. So little action on the Dallas Cowboys.
I like it.
If I'm not mistaken, Sean Shelby, the UFC matchmaker, the head UFC matchmaker, because Joe Silva also retired, is a first cousin to Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
So I have to say, John, I'm pretty sure he's well taken care of. So get Morgan in the building and you get that extra ticket, man. I'm pretty sure Sean can find his way in there.
The thing is, though, you're right, but you think Shelby wants to ask TB12 for a Super Bowl ticket, right? I mean, they're close, too. I mean, they are first cousins. There's a lot of familial resemblance when you look at Tom Brady's dad in Sean Shelby. It's unmistakable. But I feel like to call that, make that call Super Bowl week, Sean doesn't want to make that call.
If Sean's smart, he should tell Tom, hey, man, what are you doing? Are you decompressing the night before? Come on out and grab some tickets, put it in his head. Hey, I'm here, too. In Houston, Sean should be able to play that hand.
Isn't he part owner anyway, Tom, now? Doesn't he have like a little piece? He can't even dangle that in front of him.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about all that. John Anik, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. The other big fight that took place, Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz. I don't think there's anybody walking this planet that thought if Garbrandt could win, it would be over the course of 25 minutes. Once again, everybody is saying early on he's got some steam in his hands. He can put him out. But to out-chess play Dominic Cruz over 25 minutes, that just doesn't happen.
That's
and
what
it happened.
Makes it more impressive.
Right. And
if he would have knocked him out in round 1, people would have said, he caught him.
He caught him.
But he dominated him for 5 rounds.
Right. Yeah. So this was a 1-2 punch for you, John, you and everybody at the desk, just talking about fights that kind of didn't go the way anybody anticipated.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I think shame on a lot of us who built Cody Garbrandt up, right, as the guy who maybe has the tools to beat someone like Dominic Cruz. Granted, we thought the finish would materialize, but we built him up as this plus athlete, seemingly the better athlete in this equation. Stud football player in the great state of Ohio. He used to tell me stories about playing middle linebacker and obviously excelled as a running back, but he was making 150 tackles a year. He weighed 120 pounds. So shame on us for not thinking that the elite athlete with 4 training camps under his belt this year could improve as a fighter and maximize fight night, which we talked about other fighters not doing. So I don't know. I feel like I sold him short a little bit in not giving him a chance. I thought Dom looked maybe a touch slower than he did in January against Dillashaw and in June against Uriah Faber, but Cody just seemed to be the sharper, crisper, faster athlete. And I thought, it was just a huge feather in his cap. And I think it's going to take I think somebody, eventually is going to touch that chin and really challenge Cody. But I think he's going to be a tough man to beat for sure going forward.
This was a quick one, and then I'm going to turn you over to Goes. Where do you have most of your fans from what you can tell on social media? Most of the people that chime into you, have you ever figured out like where you seem to be the most popular, what country or what region of the world?
Oh, I'm not very popular, but people who interact with me, I would say the United States. I used to think it was more UK heavy than it is.
Right.
I think it is. It's definitely a majority in the United States, but no, there's a lot of great, nice love and support in Europe and place. How about you guys?
Well, lately I've been getting some stuff from Russia through Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'm
They're
getting
not hacking
hacked
in, are you?
or yeah, exactly. No, but like friendly fire. Friendly.
I think
rapport
Australia is
or whatever.
big for us.
Yeah, Australia, as well. But Facebook, we're doing some different stuff with YouTube and Facebook. So it's just something I was thinking about.
I find my popularity to be highest at the bar. Basically,
All right, Goes. What do you have for Jon Anik?
Point where when you see a fighter, even before the fights start, you can kind of tell when something's up. And the example I'm going to give you is I had Dominic Cruz in this fight all day. But when he walked out, he had this different look on his face that you'd never seen. He was angry, and you could tell that's what he does to other people. And as soon as I saw that look on his face, I said, uh-oh, we may be in trouble.
Really?
Have you been? Yeah.
Shit, I thought Cody Garbrandt would be in trouble.
That's what I thought as well, but he had a different look. Look at all of Dominic Cruz's walkouts. He's more calm, collected. He looked more like Ronda Rousey in this one. He had that scowl on his face. John, are you able to pick up on these things?
It's a great question and a great point by you. I remember sitting on the desk at UFC 194, talking to the analyst, whoever it was. We didn't like the look on Jose Aldo as he was making that walk. What was so interesting about Cruz was that I loved him during fight week. And I did say to someone, I would never paint him with the brush of being a guy that's overconfident. But my God, I've never, confidence just dripping off of Dominic Cruz, right? Even more so than normal. And I don't think it was overconfidence. I just think that his body is back, and that is a great source of confidence for him. But it's interesting that you picked up on that on the walk, because, yeah, it's definitely a different look in the eyes of Cruz. I'd have to watch it back, but I'll take your word for it. That's very interesting.
Another thing that we heard was people saying, well, maybe Dominic has too much on his plate now with the analyst work, which I think is a little I get where they're coming from, but aren't there 4 belts on that panel?
Yeah.
Can you kind of just explain how much of Dominic's time do you feel does go to the analyst work?
I can assure you that not an ounce of his preparation time for these fights is taken up by doing the desk stuff. I mean, yes, he flew to Sacramento 2 weeks out to do the Fox show. He skipped the weigh-in show, so he just flew in Saturday and flew out Sunday. Was actually disappointed he couldn't have gotten a red-eye out of there. But I think sometimes it can be a good mental break and physical break to get away, and I think it can be good to be in the venue, as Cody Garbrandt was, by the way, 2 weeks before his fight. So sometimes it can have more positives than negatives. And I can assure you, Dom doesn't, shortchange the desk work, but it really, it's not like he's calling fights in the middle of training camp. I mean, I think that would be something he would try to avoid. But I just don't feel a guy like that who is sort of mastering the preparation and the rehab and all of those little details. I just don't think that would be a factor for him.
John, tell me about the play-by-play role over at the UFC now. With Goldie no longer calling the fights, have you been told, will you be moving into that slot? Will you be sharing in that slot? What have you been told, and what can you share?
I can't give you too much, guys. I mean, there has been communication, obviously. I think anybody in my position would be curious to see how things would shake out. But, as far as I'm concerned, and you guys probably aren't going to like hearing this, it really is a performance-based business. And I do treat it as though I have to prove myself every show. I wouldn't put it past anyone taking my seat or somebody relinquishing me of my duties if I don't perform. So I'm under contract with the UFC. As Bill Belichick would say, man, I'm on to Phoenix, and then I will be doing the Denver show on Fox with Brian Stan, so I can at least tell you that. But, as far as I'm concerned, I really, as someone who's under contract with UFC, it's like they say, we need your flight information for Denver, and we get going,
Also, the new regime, WME, IMG. There's stuff that as fans we're just watching on TV. That's what Goes and I become on weekends. We're not in the arena, we're not traveling, so we're watching as fans. But there's stuff that maybe we may not be noticing. But how about through what you're hearing through the earpiece? Is the show being produced different? What's something that you can share that you're excited about, or that WME is bringing to the table, or have they even made a splash yet into production? Into what helps you do your job both on the desk and calling fights.
I think you're seeing a sprinkle of different announcers, right, with Daniel Cormier and Dominic Cruz being worked into the mix, and Dan Hardy had the privilege of calling a fight with him over the fourth quarter last year. But I'm not sure that necessarily has WME IMG's fingertips on it. We always sort of felt like live production would be the last thing that they would really address in terms of wholesale changes or even small little things you see on the broadcast, because the show must go on, and we're doing 42 a year. So I think it's easier for them to shore up holes and things outside of production and then really turn their attention to the actual broadcast. I know when Ari Emanuel has been at these shows, he's sitting octagon side, he's certainly listening and paying attention to what's going on. But at least from the seat that I sit in, it's been business as usual, the same people giving me my direct orders, and they really haven't changed. I'm still, taking direct orders from Dana White and his staff of production guys until we hear otherwise.
Both Johns, if you can chime in on this, is obviously I was looking up, Jon Anik's Twitter and following his social media, just, add to some of the questions that I had. I noticed a big outpouring towards the gentleman that lost his life that I didn't know. His name's Adam Geller. And a lot of people speak very highly of him. I've seen him, just never met him. And I wanted to know if both of you, who probably have interacted with him many times, could maybe say something about that.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, I hadn't actually worked directly with him because of where his position was and where I'm normally positioned. But it was funny because a lot of the videos that you've seen surfacing themselves of him going through rehearsals and things like that, I was privy to a lot of those because we'd just be in the building earlier doing whatever, and just seeing the guy have a blast on it. I mean, it was really funny to make something that is so ridiculously mundane. It's almost funny to me how many times they have to rehearse these things when it's the same show over and over every single week, executed in the exact same manner. But the fact that he would go out there and make it so entertaining, whether it be on the weigh-in day or the fight day, you could really tell, bringing some humor and some fun to the situation. And I do know, as you've seen the outpouring of support, there is not a person on this planet that I've ever heard have a bad word to say about him.
John?
Yeah, this has been a really hard couple of days, and it hit all of us really hard, certainly on the UFC crew. I first met Adam. He was actually my stage manager for Bellator Season 1 back in 2009, and we struck up a friendship from there and stayed in touch. He was at my wedding. I went to his, and by the way, his wedding was an MMA-themed bar mitzvah. Only one groom was going to be able to get away with that. I mean, there were women in the audience like, oh, my God, his poor bride, and she was just smiling every step of the way because Snacks was going to have it that way. He just was a special guy, really just a one-of-a-kind guy. I mean, I know others have tried to sort of, nail down what he was. Just unique comedically. His MMA recall was like nothing you've ever seen. And he just helped so many different MMA announcers and broadcasters at the Yes Network. And you've seen just a huge outpouring, even guys like, Mike Breen and just big-name people, reaching out on his behalf. He touched a lot of lives, and it's just, he kept this disease a secret, and we didn't even know he was sick. I saw him in Sacramento 2 weeks ago, and, he had lost a bunch of weight, but there was, no commentary at all about being sick, and it's tough. I'm heading up to New York Monday for his services, and needless to say, his family and friends have all been super touched by everything that's been written by a lot of people that maybe Adam didn't even know he had touched to the extent to which he did.
John, thank you very much for doing the show. And again, our thoughts and prayers with the family and friends of Adam Geller. Great job as always, John, at UFC 207. And thanks again for doing the MMA Junkie Radio Show.
Anytime, boys. Thank you.
All right. Folks, we're going to jump to a commercial. We'll be right back. Callers, I promise we will squeeze you in.
I'll lay out.
I want to thank our guests for today, Joe Lauzon and John Anik, and of course John for co-hosting. We are going to sign off here, but within 5 seconds, we're going to keep going and doing a little bit of overtime. We'll talk to Josh from Ontario and Oreo from Alberta. So thanks for listening. Be champions, and give us about 10 seconds.
Pretty women waiting out there. They're all living the devil may care. And I'm just a devil with love to spare. So viva!
All right, you guys are clear for overtime.
All right, a little bit of overtime. Thanks to Danny and John for hanging out a little bit. I just wanted to take care of these two callers that have been on hold forever. So let's talk to them right quick. Josh from Ontario, what's up, man?
Hey, guys. Thanks for the OT here. Mr. Morgan, thanks for coming into the studio.
Of course.
I just tried to think of a question for you, and with Anik on the line, you guys mentioned how the media, like the headline was the media turned on Ronda, and John, you said how like the comments are just ruthless and whatnot. One quick thing, did you see the MVP video or GIF or whatever you want to call it?
I
don't know
the
if
dance.
Rose and George.
Yeah, we
I just
saw it.
want to get your quick comment on that.
Man, I was a little bit surprised by it, to be honest with you, man. It just seemed like so out of left field. Like, why is this attack being done? I mean, it's not like they've had beef or something before. Like, you know, somebody like Ronda had been talking trash about how MVP was a fake fighter or something like that. So to me, it was just surprising. I mean, I think MVP, you know, obviously he's done a good job at marketing himself and keeping himself relevant and in the discussion and all those things. But I was a little surprised by it. I mean, I don't know that I was offended by it necessarily, but I was like, I just thought it was kind of weird.
Doesn't seem like his style.
Right.
It seems like he will talk to the current opponent that he has, but he does. I don't know that I follow him that close where I see that he's poking, prodding everybody. You
Right.
know? So it did hit me out of nowhere. I thought, you know, wish he wouldn't have done it. Maybe he just thought that humor was acceptable, I guess. And I don't know. If for example, if another dude had fallen, you know, like let's say it was Rothwell or Larkin or just someone else, and they get clowned, would we be laughing it off a little bit different than because
I don't
it's a
know if he
female,
would've
it's
done
Ronda?
it, yeah,
Right,
or
yeah.
someone
So
else.
I don't know. It sucks because he's Manchester United. We've had him on the show. I see that. I'm like, I just wish he wouldn't have done it.
I just don't understand what was the goal. I mean, like, I guess you think it's
Like, what was
funny.
the
That's
point
why
to it,
you
right?
do it, right? But I mean, kicking somebody while they're down. Like, when has that ever like earned you like fans? You're like, man, you know the way you really stuck it to that person
Right.
when they were at the lowest point of their life, and you like just jabbed the needle in a little further. That was good, bro. That was good. That makes me a fan of yours.
I am wondering though, because the sport is a lot closer than we think. Venice, London. Could they have met in the back? Not in the back, but could at one point Ronda have said something about a teammate, and this was their chance? Who knows?
I think it was just her.
The appropriate
overall.
thing would probably be to just ask MVP, why'd you do that? You know, and next time we have him on the show, I'll definitely ask him. But yeah, that probably unnecessary. And Travis Brown obviously didn't take it too kindly. Once said he'd slap him the next time he saw him, or step to me or something like that. Immediately took it down.
I mean, for as many fans as she has a lot of haters too. And I think that's all it was just a guy that probably just didn't like her.
Yeah.
And just said, you know what, now it's time to stick it to you.
Yeah.
Thought it was kind of poor taste, and like one of the hits on MVP is, you know, people are saying he hasn't fought any who's who. You know, there's not that many names on his resume type thing. So yeah, I just thought it was a little premature for him. Maybe if he was like the GOAT or something, or I might get a sense of humor, but just disagreed. And one another thing, if I have another second, is that okay, guys? One more thing.
It's overtime, man. Go for it.
Okay. I've noticed since the sale of the UFC, like the fighters been a little more vocal, right? They're speaking up. They're talking about this and that. They're without any with less fear, I guess, of repercussions or whatnot. Do you think, John? This one's kind of directed for you because you're in studio. But do you think since maybe 199 or even the sale, do you think the media? And I know you guys say in the past that you don't feel like you need to censor or watch what you write, but GG, you were just worried about what adjective you were supposed to write when you're talking about when you're describing like a victory, right? So do you think the media has feels less pressure too since the sale or since maybe 199?
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it, but it's now that you bring it up. I mean, for sure with the fighters. I mean, it's obvious since the sale, and I think honestly what it was is people just saw that $4 billion price tag, and every fighter was like, "Where's my piece of that $4 billion?" Like, oh my God, this thing was worth $4 billion. Now the weird part about that is I think people are realizing or need to realize like. That company just spent $4 billion, my friend. You know what I mean? They didn't get $4 billion. And if you want to get some money from maybe you need to go hit up Lorenzo and see if he still owes you some money from something, because that's who has the money. Mm-hmm. These are the people that pay the money. So it's not like they're going to be quick to go like, hey, we just paid $4 billion for this company. Now let's triple your salary. Let's do, now they got to try to make up money. So I think that's been the interesting part is everybody coming out and being like, where's my share of that money? Like, hold on. The share of the money isn't there. That money's already gone.
They're the actual ones that cut.
Right.
A lot of people on Sahara.
So that's been kind of interesting for me to see. But I do think, yeah, definitely. I mean, it changed. People feel a lot more open now. And as far as the media goes, maybe it is hard for me to say because I've never felt like in that position where like I'm really worried about what I say and how I say it and when I say it. As I've always said, my biggest thing is to me is just don't write, say, or do anything that you wouldn't say to somebody's face. Mm-hmm. And I still live by that. If you believe it to be factual, if your research is there and you'd be willing to say it to somebody's face, then you should feel comfortable writing whatever you want to write. But I do feel like yes, I comfortable coming out and saying people have said yes. A couple of people have certainly been picked out and singled out. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you can't go back and say that stuff didn't happen, but I haven't felt a lot of pressure like that from the media lately. And all the PR people are new now.
Who's the new Schaller?
Lene Breckenridge is actually the new Schaller. She was she handled a lot of Ronda's stuff personally. I mean, it's weird to say she's in charge of Ronda. It's like that. So she's been around, but she wasn't necessarily at all the events before. She was more working in the background.
I thought that Chris Costello might be the guy. I don't know.
I thought Chris.
I always saw him doing major moves or being in that embedded. I go, wow, I think that guy might be next, but I don't know.
He's still.
I'm sure they both do fine work.
Yeah, they both do really good stuff. Koss is always really good to us as well.
All right, Oreo in Alberta, Canada. What's up, Oreo?
What's good? How you guys doing?
Good, man.
Good. Hey, so what do you guys think as real MMA journalists and media MMA personalities when you hear the mainstream media try to comment on?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Nails on a chalkboard.
Oh man, Skip Bayless the other day. Jeez, yeah. Nails on a chalkboard is perfect, goes. It's perfect. Nails on a chalkboard.
But some people make remarks where you can tell they just don't get it yet, but it may come. And there's certain people like Skip Bayless where you just go, you're not even in the right ballpark right now.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
That's what's frustrating is that that they're just making a take just to have a take. Like, this is the hot topic, so we got to talk. It'd be like, all of a sudden, like, we're weighing in on a tennis match or something. Like, something happens, and this is the biggest travesty in the history of tennis. It's like, shut the you know what I mean? You don't even watch tennis. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? And that's what I hate is that, if it was like a well thought out point of view where you're like, somebody would just admit it, like, hey, listen, I'm going to be honest. I'm not really this educated on the sport, but here's my take on it. You know what I mean?
Gus Johnson.
Yeah.
Gus Johnson did something like that where he was kind of like, hey, I'm really trying to dive in here and get it. It takes time.
But when they just come out and act like they're the experts on the subject and this is the fact, and it's like, dude, you're literally just having opinion because you need to piss people off and you need to get clicks. It's like, to me, I just completely devalue saying, and I can't believe that people don't see through that on a daily basis.
I think people do, but maybe the casual doesn't.
Probably because he's thinking the same thing.
You know what? Actually, I just almost, if I can fast forward.
I think she beats most of them. Like, if you really think about it, I think she beats most of them. I think she loses to Shevchenko and Nunes, but I think she beats Pena. I think she beats Pennington. I think she beats McMahon.
She better get Pennington on the ground, though, because Pennington can box.
Yeah. Hey, one more thing before I go. So I just heard a rumor. I was wondering if you guys can confirm. Apparently, I live in Edmonton, and we have a new stadium called the Rogers Place. And apparently the UFC might be coming there in the fall. Maybe John would know anything about that. Is this true?
I saw that same report. It would not shock me, but I have not seen that yet. From the people that I've talked to about as far as kind of what's booked and what's on the horizon and what events we're anticipating to see, I have actually not seen a Canadian date yet. Not to say that there won't be, I just haven't seen it yet. But I saw that same report, and I will definitely ask around and try to get an answer for sure. It would make sense, man. Anytime there's a brand new venue, they're looking for top-level entertainment and top-level things to bring into their new venues. So assuming that the size of it is correct, and it certainly wouldn't shock me.
Alfonso Berry saying Jason Whitlock also did the type of reporting as far as one of the big names. Patrick Eakin is shouting out John Morgan. Earlier he says, evening, guys. Hope you're all good. We are good, man. Thank you for tuning in. Jason Marshall says, tell John to stay thirsty like Daniel Cormier used to say back in the day. Last call, and then we're out of here. It's Abel.
Man, hopefully it won't be so long next time.
Chris Perron says, wake up, Morgan.
I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, little chat thing, but I was wondering, man, I hear these post-fight press conferences all the time, and I always make sure I tune in from the very beginning because sometimes it takes a while for it to get started, but I got to make sure that first reporter that asks a question is John Morgan all the time, and I'm like, how does this guy get there, like VIP on that line, you know?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Matt asked me that question. Matt from the Sportsbook goes.
Did he ask you that today? Because he asked me that today.
He did there, and he goes, hey, John's in there. He goes, how does he get the first 4 questions at the press conference? And I go, we got some time. I'll tell you. I guess collectively when this just started mounting, I go, what I used to see was Kevin Iole was probably the one that brought the most experience in combat sports. And I think the UFC kind of leaned on him to, like, just get things going, and talk about the gate and the attendance and, like, the storylines that come out of that fight. What's next for this guy, that guy, that gal, whatever. And all of the MMA media, I felt him that respect and deferred to him, Because the UFC, what they do is you can't see it, but they have 2 runners that have mics, wireless mics. They kind of look at you, and you kind of look at them, and, hey, I'm next, or I'd like to participate. And then they get that mic to you. So I used to see it as kind of that was Kevin's role or whatever. But when they started expanding, Kevin wasn't traveling to all the shows. And Kevin also gets involved in boxing. Guess who was? John. John goes to almost every event. And I think that lead, that respect kind of went towards you. Plus, I think there's also a science to that line of questioning. It's different from, like, the radio show. It's different from a one-on-one video interview. There's, many branches of journalism. I think John knows exactly what to touch on, what the promotion probably wants to steer towards. That's not the time where you go, Nunes is the champ, and rather than talking about that and Cody Garbrandt, that's not the time to say, you think Brock's coming back? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's
when they go in the Cowboy Stadium?
Right. The reporters are very, very experienced, and then I think they take it in a certain direction. And then if there's time at the end, that's when you maybe do stuff, or if Dana decides to do a scrum. But I think that's how it panned out. I think everybody just kind of looks to John out of respect because he puts in the time and the mileage, and therefore he gets the bat first.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think that basically sums it up. I'm a familiar face, so they know that they could just hand the mic. As you said, they're trying to figure out where to put the mic to start out with, and it's like, hey, at least we know if you've got it in your hand, we don't have to wait, that awkward pause while we're trying to get everybody in, and they trust me to kind of kick things off and get things moving in the right direction, and fortunately I have a pretty good relationship with most of the fighters and feel I can kind of, get them primed up, I guess, and moving in the right direction and feeling good, get the conversation started. So I appreciate that. And it is it's very much an honor.
Hey, what would be your blunders? Let's just have some fun. I'm not throwing you under the bus or anything, but a couple times there's been some rough ones. Give me like 3. I'm sure one of them Vitor, right?
No, why would Vitor stand up?
Wasn't there one where you said something and he goes, "Oh, this guy again," or something like
that? Yeah, he threatened to beat me up.
That's what I'm saying. So what are some of the blunders?
But that's not my blunder. That's his blunder.
Not rough moments. Not a blunder, but like tough moments.
That was an awkward one. But honestly, they don't stick with me. I'm not sure, man. Yeah, okay. No, man. It is what it is. If I screw up, I screw up, man. I'll just move on.
Well, no, that's not what I meant. What I meant was just uncomfortable situations.
I think the funny, to me, one that really
sticks. Couple guys are saying you picked against me.
Well, I was going to say probably the funniest one that sticks against me. So that stuff's always.
And what about any Dana moments?
Not not this Dana. It's been so long since we talked to him. I got boxed out of that scrum the other day. We've been trying to interview Dana forever, by the way.
Boxed out? You guys weren't there?
Oh my God! Well, no, we just couldn't get there. When they did the one the other day, it was just impossible for me to get to the front from where I was standing to take pictures. By the time I was done taking pictures of the face-offs, all the other reporters had already ran up, and now there's like literally no room for me to stand.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was like,
usually you're front and center.
Yeah, but the way they had it set up, because I have to take pictures too, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. Mine's not just writing; I got to shoot photos too, video, depending on who's around. So I was in position to shoot the photos, and as soon as it was done, they had already told us that Dana was going to stick around, and so they started to grab the chair. And I mean, literally, there was nowhere for me to go. There was just massive people that all pushed to the front. I was stuck in the back, but I was like, whatever. It is what it is.
Back to Belfort. I don't remember word for word, but I didn't know he threatened you.
Yeah, it was in Portuguese. So this was after he knocked out Luke Rockhold, and we were down.
He said, "This guy."
We were down in Brazil, and I asked him. I was like, "Listen," because I'm sitting there watching social media, and he just had this amazing like spinning kick knockout, and everything is just TRT cheater, TRT cheater, da 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 da. And so I asked him, does it frustrate you that your entire career now, all they're talking about is TRT? I mean, here you had this amazing knockout, rather than anybody talking about technique. All they're talking about is testosterone, which obviously testosterone doesn't help you. So
You've always worded questions very carefully.
Give him a chance to address it. You know what I mean? And that's what I thought is like. I mean, I would want to know that. Don't you want to know that? And he said, man, in Portuguese, he basically said that somebody should come beat me up or whatever. Immediately afterwards, like all the media and everything in that area, because a couple of people did clap, but it wasn't media that clapped. The people that clapped, it was like people in camps and stuff like that. And immediately, like the media came to me, like, "That's so embarrassing. I can't believe you did that. Bro, don't worry. Obviously, we won't let anything happen to you." And I'm like, no big deal. But post-log to that, should definitely say, I mean, Vitor later apologized for that, and it was kind of funny. We ended up on a flight together without knowing it. We just happened to be sitting across the aisle from each other in a flight down in Brazil. We had like a 3-hour conversation, very, very apologetic. He was like, he's like, at the time, I was just pissed off. And
you just happened to be that straw that actually
that was it.
Because that whole week, I remember that came about.
Yeah.
But going back to what I was saying, goes, have you ever felt that? Like, okay, sometimes you want to participate, but it's a different type of line of questioning than what we're used to here.
Yeah, because when we're doing an interview here, there's times where we know we're going to ask a difficult question, so we set it up with other questions. You gain their trust.
Yeah, you kind of have a little bit of...
And then from there, you hit them with it. There, it's more you got to be fast and quick to the point.
Right.
And so you don't have that buffer, so there's a good chance you're going to get stolen right back.
That used to be the Dana scrums. Like, people would get so mad because, you start out with a couple of softballs like, Dana,
broke another record.
Tell us about this massive card. I mean, what an incredible event this is. Yeah, man. Da, 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 and you get them all fired up, and you're like, and steroids. You know what I mean? And kind of throw it in. Where it's like other people come in and they want to ask the question right off the bat, and it was so funny because you get this criticism.
They'll
like,
shut it down.
Bro, you always ask softballs, man. Why don't you ask the hard question? I'm like, do you not understand, man? Like, there's an art to how you get this. You can't just come in and like guns blazing right out the bat because they're just going to shut you down. And it's like, what point did you prove? Like, I proved that I would ask a question. Did you get an answer?
Right.
Oh, you didn't.
Exactly.
So you got the whole thing shut down?
Right.
That's what you're going to be proud about today is the fact that you asked a question that got the whole session ended? Fucking A, man. Way to go, bro.
It's those same numbskulls that go to the club and go, second base? Not even let's dance. How about a drink? They
It happened yesterday. We had Nina Ansaroff on the show, and I really wanted to ask her, your girlfriend was talking about this is the next champion.
Right.
But the champion's in your camp. How did that all come about? If I would have let off with that, she probably would have been in a bad mood the whole interview.
Of course.
So we had to kind of lead up to it and gain her trust, let her know we did pull you into this interview to talk to you, but there's other intangibles. It's an art, man.
Yep.
100%.
Abel, man, your call is just dragging on and
Abel,
on.
Enough already.
No, I'm sorry. Abel, you want to wrap up?
That's what happens when you ask the good questions. It just keeps going on.
Good stuff.
Hey, one thing I was listening to the Adam Hunter show, the MMA Roasted, and they were talking about Ronda Rousey's knees, something they were shot or something for the fight. You guys know anything about that?
One more time.
The knees were shot?
Yeah, that I guess Brendan Schaub on his podcast, Fighter and the Kid, I guess he mentioned that Ronda Rousey's knees were shot. I guess she couldn't shoot or she couldn't go for a takedown, like a regular wrestling takedown and stuff?
I know she had some knee procedures done. Yeah, she'd had some procedures done. So I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was healthier. Was my understanding. But so I would say no, but I won't lie, man. That camp is notoriously tight knit, man. You don't get a lot of information out of that camp.
Yeah. Thanks, Abel, for the call, and thanks, Danny and John, for sticking overtime. It's been fun. We'll do it from time to time. Facebook chat, you guys are always spot on. So, listen, we'll do this again tomorrow. John, you're more than welcome. I don't know what your schedule's like. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Todd Duffy, UFC heavyweight. Just booked the fight with Mark Godbeer here in Vegas.
Yep.
UFC 209. Good to see the Duff man back in the mix. I'm working on a few other names, but I really haven't locked them in yet, so that's all I can announce. But, of course, we'll be taking calls and doing chat participation, Facebook and YouTube. So, anyway, we are out of here. Enjoy your day. See you in about 22 hours. For John and Goes and Danny, I'm George. Go out there and be a champion.
Always be a good boy. Don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man.